It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews.
There's going to be much higher expectations, sense of awareness of what we bring to the table.
Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, answer. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker here on the Full Court Press. 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, streaming on the 1069thefan.com website and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app. A lot of different ways to tune in, be a part of the show, and even after the fact, a lot of podcasts. Everything is made available, archived shortly after we're done with our live shows. And listen after the fact at your convenience. But busy day today for Utah State. We got Utah State hosting Wyoming, and pregame coverage starting in about an hour with voice of the Aggies, Al Lewis, longtime voice of the Aggies, and Jalen Moore will share his thoughts about the matchup. That'll start at 6 o'clock on our sister station, KVNU, and tip off at 7. There are still seats available tonight, so it would be great to have another great rockin' Spectrum for their matchup against Wyoming. Also, news today in football, not just with college football is now done after the championship game last night. There are still players announcing their intentions to leave or where their new destinations are going to be, and Utah State has found themselves on both sides of those announcements here recently.
Yeah, a few players announced they're leaving. This came kind of early in the new year. We were kind of on break, didn't have much chance to talk about it. One player announcing he was leaving after the technical deadline, but obviously entering in before the deadline. Those two players was just catching up as Titan Saxton, safety, former Skyview player, and then Ralph Frias, who's actually now the second player who we've seen actually out of the two-deep depth chart, well, the second starter. Him and Devin Dye, two starters that have now departed. Frias starting a bunch of games at left tackle. Basically, whenever he was healthy, he was starting there at left tackle.
Yeah.
And then Devin Dye, obviously, at safety across from Ike Larson. Both of them were certainly serviceable players. Devin Dye being second team All-Mountain West. And Ralph Frias certainly being a big body there at left tackle. But he's decided to move on after starting most of the games this year for the Aggies at left tackle. But a lot of additions. None to directly replace those, at least new ones that we haven't already talked about. But yeah, a couple of, at least one really exciting announcement today, committing to the Aggies.
Yeah, Bryson Barnes, who wasn't expected to be the starting and star quarterback for the University of Utah this last year, with high expectations and high hopes for Cam Rising, but he just never really recovered from his offseason knee surgery. And so he was never available. So Bryson Barnes ends up filling in and playing the vast majority of snaps for the University of Utah at the quarterback position.
Yeah, and did pretty well. He completed about 59% of his passes, about 1,600 yards, 12 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. Had 200 or 300 rushing yards, I think. So decent stats, but obviously moving from a Power 5 level, from playing in what was a stacked Pac-12 this past year, moving to the Mountain West, and especially Utah State team that has some quality wide receivers. It could be a chance for him to have, another breakout, because he's already kind of had a breakout this year with the University of Utah, maybe taking a step forward going to Utah State.
So Utah State already had Cooper Legas announce that he was going to come back. McKay Hillstead is announced that he's going to be coming back to this point. Sounds like both those guys are going to be back. Obviously, Levi Williams, he's leaving. He's moving on. And so then early in the transfer portal process, Spencer Petras from Iowa announces he's going to come to Utah State. So that's one transfer quarterback coming in. And then Bryson Barnes is another addition. And there are some other Now I can't remember his name. There was a freshman who redshirted this last year, who we didn't see. But it's going to be a very crowded quarterback room. So you've got Barnes, who you said threw for just under 1,600 yards last year, 12 touchdowns. Cooper Legas, who threw for 1,800 yards last year, 19 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. McKay Hillstead threw for a little over 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And in 2022, because he did not play this last year, Spencer Petras, who threw for 1,700 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions.
Yeah, these are a bunch of guys that are all, they've all got Division I experience, and that's what's kind of making these guys this very interesting. Is that there's not like this runaway candidate to be the best, but you could probably say McKay Hillstead's probably at the back end of that group, but a lot of it just has to do with the fact that he's a freshman. Going into a sophomore, obviously, he doesn't qualify to redshirt for last year because of how much he played. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see who these guys play, because Petras, he has the most starting experience and the most snaps out of all these players. Spent several years at Iowa, was a starter for like 2.5 seasons. As mentioned, didn't play last year. And then Barnes and Legas both kind of have one-ish year. It's a little more complicated with those two players, but kind of it's like one-ish year of starting experience between them. And, 2 of these guys are coming from a Power 5 level. They've played against Power 5 teams week in and week out. But Cooper Legas, he knows his system. He's been here for several years. He knows the wide receivers and was playing pretty darn well before he, again, suffered an injury. So there are 3 legitimate candidates, and I don't know if I can really identify one. I'd probably just lean toward Legas because he has – there's nothing that Barnes and Petras have that Legas doesn't have. And there's something that Legas has that neither of those two guys have, and that's experience with Blake Anderson's offense and with these wide receivers. So I'd give him the edge, but you look at a guy like Petras. He's a good recruit coming out. He's big, strong arm. Barnes, he was impressive at times at the University of Utah. And both of those guys, as I mentioned, we kind of alluded to this when we first mentioned him in the first hour. They're coming from places where quarterbacks, as important as the position is, they are focused more on running, defense. Those are the styles. It's Iowa and Utah. Those are not quarterback factories. They're defense factories, running backs, tight ends, that kind of thing. And you go from that to an offense that can, at times, still sling the ball around, throw it deep, use the wide receivers as basically pseudo running plays with these screen plays and whatnot. That's a lot more of what you're getting at Utah State, and you put a quarterback in that system after playing in one where it's, all right, we're going to play pro style, we're going to do I formation, and you're going to 3-step drop and throw a quick slant, and then we're going to run it 3 more times. Like you go from that offense to Blake Anderson's spread it out offense, sideline to sideline, vertical. You're basically playing 100 yards of offense every single play, potentially. You go into that, that's a potential for these guys to explode if one of them ends up winning the job. I mentioned Logan Bonner in the first hour where he was an unremarkable Arkansas State quarterback. Couldn't even keep the job at Arkansas State most of the time. Either he was losing the job to somebody else or he was getting injured. Comes to Utah State. Granted, it was the same offense, but he happened to get Devin Tompkins and Derek Wright to go along with Brandon Bowling, 2 guys he hadn't been playing with, and Bowling obviously came with Bonner. And yeah, he exploded because he had the offense and he had the weapons. And so either of these guys, Petras or Barnes, could come in with a guy like Jalen Royals, who's an NFL caliber wide receiver. You've got Colby Bowman and Micah Davis, and they're bringing in some other potentially talented wide receivers out of JUCO and through recruiting. You got a lot of options here in this spring to decide who's going to be the best quarterback, and all these guys could end up being the guy who, if they stay healthy for an entire season, and that's kind of a question mark, quarterbacks in Blake Anderson's offense appear to be cursed.
Right. You can't. Whoever starts the season doesn't always end the season or play every game in between. And so that may be part of the thought process here is he knows he needs starting caliber players, even if they won't be the game 1 starter on the first snap, because the odds of that designated quarterback taking every snap and playing an entire season healthy are very slim.
Yeah, Logan Bonner's like the best they've done, and he was splitting snaps at the start of the year with Andrew Peasley and played a little bit of the bowl game. And like every year, we've had 3 different quarterbacks take at least a significant number of snaps. I think we've had 5 different starting quarterbacks. And then you can basically say 6. Andrew Peasley never started a game, but he did take significant snaps.
He played significant amount of time.
His only start came before the Blake Anderson era. So you basically have 6 quarterbacks that have played a decent number of time, effectively started. And yeah, so this may be Blake Anderson just doing math, being like, well, I play 3 quarterbacks a year, so why don't I have 3 Mountain West caliber quarterbacks on my team? There we go. Math solved. So it will be interesting with these 3 quarterbacks.
With this move, does it kind of signal that perhaps McKay Hillstead will redshirt? Last year, I don't think he could redshirt because they felt like they needed him. He was a talented quarterback, but there was also some uncertainty, obviously, in that coaching staff about what Cooper Legas could do or could not do. And so my sense was they needed McKay Hillstead available because as we saw, they ultimately made a decision to have him start games. Now with 3 quarterbacks in that room, all with Division I starting experience, you have the luxury of redshirting Hillstead if you can pull that off, if you can convince him. Because if he still has 3 years of eligibility, let him sit out, continue to develop his body, understand the speed of the game, gain his confidence, and he is the future of the Utah State quarterback position. Or is he too talented that he's going to be in the mix, that he could be very well the starter on game day as any of these game 1 as any of these other guys could be.
You're either going to see McKay Hillstead redshirt or transfer after spring ball. If he hasn't entered his name and he hasn't said anything by now, he's going to be sticking around for spring ball. And we'll see. That conversation is, Blake Anderson's done a good job to convince guys like Jalen Royals to not dip out for, bigger offers, bigger places. Obviously got Cooper Legas to stick around even after he brought in a guy like Spencer Petras.
Yeah.
So if you can convince McKay Hillstead to say, hey, look, you're going to redshirt this year, and then you're going to compete next year. The only guy who will be left of these quarterbacks will be Barnes.
Yeah.
He's got 2 years of eligibility. So at that point, what if Barnes isn't the starter this year? Well, then you're competing with him to take over for either Legas or Petras if it turns out to be one of them that starts this year. So that's potential. And at worst, you have 2 years, where you're kind of sitting, maybe playing a little bit. If you don't win the job over Barnes, and then you've got your junior and senior year to be the guy. You take over the reins. You've been groomed in, 2 years, star for the Aggies. That could potentially convince him to say, hey, redshirt this year, as you mentioned, develop, learn behind these guys, learn the system better, prepare yourself, prepare your body. Compete for it next year with Barnes. And if you don't get it, then you're, the clear heir apparent after the next 2 years. What would that be? 2026?
Yeah.
You'd be the clear future starter for 2026 if you don't get it in 2025. So it depends on if Hillstead wants to play now. If he wants to play now, he's going to transfer after spring ball, and he'll have a decent resume. He can go somewhere. I don't know if he'll find somewhere to start because a lot of teams are going to have settled on a probable starter by the end of spring ball.
Yeah.
And that may be something that convinces him to stay. He's like, say, look, you can leave, but Bishop Davenport went to South Alabama. He's 4th stringer. You may have some starting experience, but that doesn't get you a starting job just anywhere.
Yeah, it's true.
So we'll see. It just depends on what Hillstead wants. If he's okay with being the clear heir apparent, having a chance to star in 2026, if he can wait that long, then he's going to have the red carpet rolled out for him by that year. Maybe even win the job in 2025 if he's talented enough. But like I said, we're going to see him either transfer after spring ball or we're going to see him redshirt. One of the two. Or I guess the surprise third option is it turns out he's better than all of them and he's starting in week 1.
Which is a possibility.
Yeah, and if that happens, then heaven help the rest of the Mountain West because that means McKay Hillstead's dang good.
Yeah.
But I do think we're likely to see one of those two options, redshirt or transfer. because obviously he's kind of considered that odd man out. But again, there's going to be a competition in spring ball. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. We'll find out who that is.
Yeah, that's why I just think spring is going to be fascinating just to watch that particular position. The other, though, to discuss today is with Ralph Frias announcing that he's leaving. I know Utah State has tried to address some issues with the offensive line, but how big of an impact is it losing him?
I think he's the guy that needed some time to develop. He was the guy that came in as a Power 5 transfer. I think there were expectations that he was going to be really good, and he didn't live up to those expectations. He was an okay left tackle. He had some problems at times. There were some good things that he did, but injuries and probably a lack of experience from him because he didn't play a whole lot. Barely at all. I don't think he played very many offensive snaps at all. He was mostly like some special teams with
when he was in Arizona.
Yeah, when he was in Arizona. So I guess I don't know exactly why he's transferring. Maybe he thought he's being recruited over. That's a potential option. Of course, the guys that are coming in are a lot like where he was at.
Yeah.
Former high recruits, they didn't get any playing time. They're coming in competing with him. I guess he just wants to go somewhere else. But whenever you lose the start of the transfer portal, it impacts you because that's your best player at that position is leaving.
Right. Yeah.
So even if you like the guys coming in, which you clearly do, like the guys coming in, but you're losing depth. Like at best, you're losing depth. At worst, you're losing the guy that maybe should be starting over the guy that's coming in. So it's not something you like to see. Again, you lost Devin Dye. Like I said, at best with Devin Dye, you're losing depth. And at worst, which is we're closer to the worst part because Devin Dye was really good.
Yeah, he was very solid.
It's not likely any of the guys you're bringing in are going to be as good as Devin Dye. But yeah, it's something that can be overcome, but that's just more work you have to do, more development. One less guy who knows the system, one less guy who's worked with the quarterback, with Cooper Legas. And it's not backbreaking, but it's not good.
435-339-0321. How do you feel about the news today? Bryson Barnes, who was quarterback for Utah for this season, threw for nearly 1,600 yards, 12 touchdowns, did throw 11 interceptions, more than any other quarterback currently in the Utah State quarterback room. But committing to come to Utah State, coming up the road a little bit. And it just makes that very crowded, but also very talented quarterback room. I'll say a lot of experience. Maybe that's a better term to use. A lot of experience in that quarterback room. Spencer Petras, P5 starting quarterback. Barnes, P5 starting quarterback. Cooper Legas, who's played a lot of snaps at Utah State in Blake Anderson's system. And McKay Hillstead, who was good enough to displace a player who was several years ahead of him on the roster to take over the starting job for a stretch of the season.
Yeah, it's pretty rare. I've not really run into very many teams that have this much experience on the roster. Usually it's talk about, really talented guys, but it's a bunch of guys. You have like one guy who's, the starter, maybe he's played a decent amount, and the guy behind him has played in a handful of games. The two guys behind him have never seen the light of day on a football field. The Aggies have 4 quarterbacks who have started multiple football games. I don't know if I've seen that before. It's probably happened somewhere, but how do you have multiple guys that have 10+ games as starters all on the roster at the same time? And a guy who's gonna be a sophomore who's also got 3 or 4 games under his belt, 1,000+ yards. Geez, how do you get that much experience into the same quarterback room? It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it is. But it's been proven over the last several years, Utah State needs multiple capable quarterbacks.
Yeah, you need 3.
Because of injuries that happen, it just is. It's just been how it's rolled out. That's how it's worked. So Utah State needs multiple quarterbacks who can, at any moment, come in and execute the offense and lead the team to victories. Because we've seen at least 3 are needed, sometimes even more.
Yeah, their week 1 starter has not played in the majority of any of their bowl games. Cooper Legas took over for Bonner. Davenport took over for Legas. Williams just started the entire game in place of Legas. So
that's true.
Yeah, they need 3 quarterbacks. Yeah, apparently. I guess that's just the rule now.
That's the rule. So your thoughts about that? The transfers coming in, transfers leaving for Utah State football. The final signing period for the upcoming season for college football will be in early February. So we'll see what else matriculates for Utah State, either players who leave or players that they need to replace or others who they're going to get out of high school because not as many high school players in this recruiting class so far. So 435-339-0321 if you want to weigh in on the latest moves and additions and subtractions going on with Utah State football.
It's ski season, Cache Valley, which means season ski rentals. This is Mark at the Sportsman, where we have over 20 years of season ski rental experience. We rent to kids and adults. Come in to get season ski rentals for your entire family. Starting at $69.99, you will get the right gear for your kids to ski this year at the Sportsman on Main Street in downtown Logan with tons of parking in the back.
Welcome, friend. Nice to see you again at the Sportsman.
Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat hopes the new year brings you wonderful opportunities, fresh starts, and of course, better health. Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat in the Three Peaks Medical Plaza, North Logan, and Providence is here to help. Cutting-edge techniques, qualified doctors, and friendly staff ensure the highest quality patient care for both adults and children. Most insurance products, including SelectMed, are accepted. Go to CacheValleyENT.com for appointments and details. Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat offer you solutions to ear, nose, and throat symptoms, helping you live the life you deserve.
It's never too late or too cold to get rid of that old vehicle. Now is the time to earn extra cash by calling DD Auto and Salvage. Let them pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy and fast to get rid of your junker vehicles by paying you the most money possible. Pickup is available. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204.
That's 787-1204 today.
See store for details.
With fresh snow comes fresh deals at Murdoch GMC Chevrolet Cadillac. Make some fresh tracks to our winter sales event. In this season, our Murdoch vehicles are perfect for making fresh tracks to winter fun. Right now, receive up to $8,000 off a new 2024 GMC Sierra 1500. When you walk through our doors, you feel like family. At Murdoch Chevrolet GMC Cadillac in Logan or online at MurdochChevroletLogan.com. GMC, we are professional grade.
Call 866-628-3065 or see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 1/31/24.
Check this out. This is The Herd.
You're excited. I'm excited.
With Colin Cowherd.
I would like to point out that all through this league with quarterback injuries, when an offensive coach loses a starting quarterback, it's not man overboard. 32 of 37 this last weekend, Jake Browning a backup at Jacksonville. Zach Taylor, offensive coach.
This is The Herd.
Weekdays from 10 to 1 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. Be safe out there with all the snow coming down. If you can't make it to the Aggie game, we'll have full play-by-play on our sister station, KVNU, 102.1 FM, 610 AM. Obviously, we try to encourage as many people there as possible, but be safe, be smart. But we'd love to have a good crowd to cheer on Utah State against Wyoming tonight. So I came across this earlier today, Jason, and it kind of freaked me out. So you've got your internet fired up. I need you to go to ESPN. You can really go to just about anywhere else, but I haven't checked to see if others have done this. Go to the college football page and look at standings.
I'm trying to. All right. Standings.
Sorry, not standings. Go to teams.
Teams. All right.
And now just start to look at who are in what conferences. Already they've reorganized everything. After the championship game last night, it's there are different teams. Texas is in the SEC. You've got Arizona State and Arizona in the Big 12, Utah in the Big 12.
Then you got
the Pac-12 has two schools listed.
The Pac-2, baby.
It looks really weird.
It does. Seeing Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC, that almost bothers me.
It just doesn't seem right, but here we are.
Yeah, that's the world we live in now. That's college football for you, college sports. Realignment and money grabs. That's the world of college football we live in. Is there's these giant TV contracts and there's no oversight, and so that's capitalism.
Yeah, yep. That's
College
the
football
American way.
College football is the ultimate capitalist sport.
Yes, it is truly American. 435-339-0321 if you want a mind bender, just pull up the teams now and college football pages. Because now that the page has turned with the 2023 season officially at an end, it's totally rearranged now for the future of what 2024 is going to look like. Yeah. It's really weird.
It's going to take a minute to get used to. Just
Yeah.
going to take a minute to get used to. They're going to talk about Oklahoma and Texas. Like, oh, yeah, how are they doing in the Big 12? Oh, they're playing Alabama next week. What?
In a conference game. In the Pac-12, which is only 2 teams.
Yeah.
Big 12, which was now, 16, 18
16,
teams?
I think there's a couple that are 18 or 20.
Yeah, Big 10 is massive, so I don't know why they still hold on to those numbers, but
branding.
Part of their name. It's our identity. 9315 texting in, why wouldn't more players with an agricultural background not come to USU for sports? Just makes sense. Agriculture school, agriculture students. Most farmers and ranchers are tough physically and mentally, so it can't be bad that we have barns.
Believe it or not, most kids that go to school for sports don't actually go there for education, despite what they say in their commitment. Happy to continue my education at such and such junior college after transferring away from a 4-year institution.
Yeah, it's
people go to schools
very rarely for the athletes to choose their destinations because of academics.
Yeah, they choose.
I mean, it happens. It does happen.
There's usually a balance there, especially too. And I mean, I've talked to athletes around here where academics does actually play into. There's a lot of people who will actually forego playing at the next level because all the schools offering them aren't going to give them the academic opportunities. Like, they know they're not going pro, so they want to go to a school that gives them, something academically.
And if the athletic programs are about equal, then what makes the difference is which school is the better academic institution.
Yeah. But when you're getting to higher and higher in Division I, you're talking about better and better players who are more and more in demand. And they're choosing this a lot more based off of sports. And at the Division I level, academics is going to be good for most options you have. Clearly, it's better in a lot of different places. There's a lot of schools that are much better academically, but once you get to the Division I level, it's a lot more about the sports itself.
Yes. Yeah. But I agree. I mean, those farmer and rancher kids, they are tough. They're tough.
What if they want to get away from the farm, too?
Yeah. I mean, those Vigil brothers, they were tough. They knew how to handle animals.
Yeah, well, farmers are tough.
Yeah. But just because you have an agricultural background, I don't think that's a prerequisite that you choose an agricultural university.
That's like the BYU mindset that every member of the LDS church has to go to BYU.
Yeah, that's true.
You could be Tom Brady reincarnate. If they're LDS, they have to go to BYU. They send mean messages to all the LDS athletes who don't go.
Yeah.
Heaven forbid they don't go to BYU.
Heaven forbid. So what if you're an institution like University of Utah? So, I mean, what athletes are they supposed to attract? Or UVU?
Well, UVU, the joke is they get everyone BYU doesn't get.
That's right.
Or it doesn't want, I should say.
Yeah.
That's the joke.
Yes.
Not true, but that's the joke they claim.
Yeah. So big game tonight, Utah State, Wyoming. Cowboys, speaking of cowboys and ranchers and farmers and whatnot.
Now we're getting some Cowboys. They're coming in.
Yeah. So big game tonight in the Spectrum. Give yourself a little bit more time to get there tonight because of the snow, but hope that there is a good crowd. Don't let that scare you away because this is important for Utah State to get a good win and to win by a healthy margin as well. 8968 was texting in, what can the Aggies do to improve? Just keep winning. It'll take care of itself.
Yeah, like I said, you need to keep that winning mindset. That you need to keep, as Coach Springle talked about, you need to keep paying rent. Because the best teams are the best teams because they keep playing their best. When you start getting complacent, you're not playing your best, and then you're not the best anymore. So the best teams don't get high on their own success. It's why you talk about these teams that maybe are like getting far in the playoffs, and they're always talking about how we're the underdog, and whether or not that's true, they're finding some motivation to always be trying their best. It's like with New England Patriots from the Super Bowl 1 year, like, we embrace being the underdogs, like the New England Patriots.
You are no longer the underdogs.
But they're embracing a mindset, whether it's true or not, they are using some kind of motivation. However that motivation comes, there's different ways to do it, but keep that motivation to keep playing your best, keep trying hard, bring your lunch pail to work every practice, keep showing up, keep paying the rent, as Coach Sprinkle talks about. That's what keeps you playing at your best. If you keep doing that, however you motivate yourself to do that, you're going to keep being successful.
Yeah, Michael Jordan, arguably the greatest of all time. There's a few other players you can maybe throw in there to make that debate. But that was one of the things he was famous for, and that The Last Dance really revealed at a much higher level than I realized, is that he is famous for manufacturing things that people said or did to motivate him, to make sure that he was competitive on the right level, night in and night out. And even if somebody said something that was in jest, then he would somehow try to internalize it to make it a personal slight. So he would go out and try to prove a point against that person.
Yeah, it's bulletin board material.
Yes. He became famous for that. And clearly, obviously, his record speaks for itself and how that worked out for him.
Yeah, he managed to keep finding some drive to keep playing. I mean, Tom Brady kind of had that where it's like, what on earth do you have left to prove, Tom? But it's like, can't stop, got to keep going.
Yes.
And it obviously led him to a very successful career. And it's the mark of a lot of great athletes, Michael Jordan and Tom Brady just being a couple of examples.
8968 asking, how does a guy give up a truck to come to Utah State?
I don't know. Maybe they offered him a better truck.
Did Barnes definitively get a truck?
He's on the
or do
team.
those only go to? Did they go to everybody on the team, or did they just go to the scholarship athletes on the team?
Didn't he get a scholarship eventually?
I think you're right. I think he did.
Usually, if you end up starting a full year, they give you a scholarship at some point.
I'm sure he got a truck.
Like, because they give scholarships to Aggie players who only started 1 or 2 games, and yeah, they probably gave him a truck anyway.
Well, most of those are you don't actually get to own the truck; you're just leasing it.
Yeah,
while
it is
you're
true.
there.
You're leasing it while you're there, and I don't know, details, but yeah.
I don't think we're going to see a big Dodge truck at the Utah State.
No, we're not going to see a red truck
parking lot next to the stadium.
Be funny if it's just
with Bryson Barnes driving around. 9315 texting in. The Wyoming Cowboys, I don't think, are very good at riding bulls in the spectrum. Go Aggies, hook up them Cowboys.
You mean buck them Cowboys?
Yeah, they should buck them Cowboys. That's what they should do.
Need that to be on a sign. And for the crowd to cheer.
Yeah, I like that.
It's very close to a very potentially offensive phrase. Buck them Cowboys.
Yeah. But, yeah, big news today with Bryson Barnes. This is a quarterback room now for Utah State with a lot of experience, throwing for a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns. It's going to be a very interesting quarterback battle to see what happens. One of them didn't play last year. One of them is going to be a true sophomore. So will he redshirt? One of them is a guy that's been here for a while. And another one is somebody who stepped in to fill a role, a vacancy, that another team did serviceable enough to help his team get quite a few wins this last year. So it's going to be a very interesting battle coming up in the spring.
Yeah, I think it will be. One thing that's interesting, I think if there's an early indication of who the quarterback battle, I think if it's top 2, I would probably go with Cooper Legas and Bryson Barnes. Partly because Petras doesn't necessarily have the athleticism to have the same running aspect to the Blake Anderson doesn't need like a Lamar Jackson out there, and he's never really had one. Maybe Levi Williams a little bit, but he's wanted a guy who can throw but run a little bit. Cooper Legas can obviously do that.
Have that threat.
Yeah, have that threat. And Cooper Legas, he's a threat to run. Barnes is also a bit of a threat to run. Hillstead can run. I don't know if he's a threat to run, but he can. So I think in Petrus, I think he has negative rushing yards in his career because of how they calculate sacks. But it shows that he's not gaining those by scrambling, and of course he's also playing for Iowa, who, heaven forbid, they ever have a running quarterback. They have to have drop back passers, and they throw to tight ends. And then they run the ball 30 times a game.
Yeah.
Maybe Petrus can run, and we just have never seen it. But assuming that there's something there as far as him not running the ball, I think it's more of Lega, Barnes, those can be the top guys. Petrus, they're obviously experienced, but probably sitting behind those two. And then we talked about this last segment where Hillstead probably redshirts or he transfers. So
my hope would be that he redshirts.
Yeah.
Take some time, work on his body, become a more proficient quarterback, and then come back and compete for the starting job, because he will absolutely make a great case to be the starter after he redshirts.
Yeah, I think career-wise, give yourself a year to redshirt, and then, at that point, go.
Yeah, you have 3 more years to play.
Yeah, and a chance to win the starting job in 2025, and if not, it's basically yours in 2026.
9315 asking, did Barnes use his NIL truck for his campus visit? Well, that would be funny for us and ironic for Utah.
It's his truck. He's using it however he wants.
If that's his everyday vehicle, then maybe he did.
I wonder how many of those actually used the truck.
That's a good question.
Like, what does the parking lot look like at University of Utah practice? Is it full of red trucks?
How do you know which one is yours?
That's true. You're running around.
Everybody's coming out of practice at the same time.
Trying to honk the horn. It's like everyone else doing the same thing. It's like, where's
everybody unlike your truck at the same time?
Yeah.
All right, we got to take a time out here in the Full Court Press. When we come back, look, Utah Jazz in the middle of a great stretch here. They went out on the East Coast to take on the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference. They won 2 of those 3 games. They've won 8 out of their last 10. Is this sustainable for the Utah Jazz? They're moving up in the standings. We'll give you an update on that and other things going on tonight. Obviously, the big one is Utah State taking on Wyoming. We'll let Jason go here in a little bit, but he's got to get up to the stadium. But always love to hear from you as well on these topics. 435-339-0321.
Elements has delicious lunch specials. Soup, salad, and bread for just $10 is tasty and quick. Elements lunch menu is full of scrumptious items. Wood-fired pizzas are an excellent choice that include barbecued chicken and the bee's knees. The fresh battered halibut fish and chips with seasoned fries is always a hit. And don't forget the fan favorite, Chipotle fried chicken sandwich. Thursdays, enjoy Elements house-made smoked brisket. Casual or professional. Open Monday through Thursday, 11:30 to 8 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11:30 to 9. Visit theelementsrestaurant.com for reservations.
Do you have a fireplace or stove that isn't working right? Don't wait until winter to get it fixed. Get ahead of the game and get your fireplace or stove serviced now by the best of Northern Utah winter, Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They service everything from Quadra-Fire pellet stoves to heat and glow fireplaces. Get a 20% discount on your next service and labor when you mention this ad. Call 752-7272 or go to advancedfireplaceandstove.com. Advanced Fireplace and Stove, where comfort is their business. Beezer Lock & Key specializes in securing your world with their expertise in locks, keys, and hardware. Every aspect of their services is meticulously tailored to ensure your safety. They offer a vast selection of hardware brands and access control options, along with custom master key systems. With Beezer Lock & Key, you have control of your facility's access 24/7. For 28 years, Beezer has provided top-notch security solutions that stand unmatched in the industry. Visit 4th North, 1st West, and Logan, or go to beezerlock.com to discover more.
Winter. JM Mechanical knows winter in Cache Valley and just how to fix, tune up, and replace problems you may be having with your home heating system. JM Mechanical is Cache Valley's most trusted name for repair work on every brand of residential and commercial heating units. Fast, 24-hour heating service is available in Box Elder, Cache County, and Franklin County with 100% satisfaction guaranteed and upfront pricing. Call JM Mechanical at 563-6267. That's 563-6267.
Westwood One is the only place for exclusive audio coverage of every NFL postseason game. Hi, this is Scott Graham. Join us throughout the month of January and into February as we bring you Super Wildcard Weekend, the Divisional Round, Championship Sunday, and of course Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas. All 13 NFL playoff games are on Westwood One. If it's the NFL playoffs, it's right here.
On Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan. Talking the sports you care about. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Stop in today with your prescription. Let Crystal Vision fit your glasses to you, because they can help get glasses that will fit your character. Take your current prescription, fit a pair of glasses that fit your style, and they're located on 14th North in Logan. That's Crystal Vision. Speaking of vision, it's kind of hard to see in some places with this snow coming down and windy conditions, so be careful out there on the roads. If you are planning on going to the Aggie game, give yourself a little extra time to get there, a little extra time to get through the parking lots and then into the arena and all that stuff.
Giving myself like an hour to get there.
Yes, give yourself plenty of time. Looks like an update from the National Weather Service out of Salt Lake City just a few minutes ago. A wind gust of 71 miles per hour was reported along I-15 in north part of Brigham City. So be careful if you're out there. Utah State men's basketball getting ready to take on Wyoming tonight. 7 o'clock is when it starts. Pre-game coverage with Al Lewis starting at 6. So take your radio with you on your way there, or if you can't make it or choose not to, then you can listen and tune in. And then when the game is over, they'll be on the air with post-game coverage and Aggie call. And then Utah State football picking up another quarterback out of the transfer portal. So a lot of interesting news today for Utah State. But the Utah Jazz, a team that has been on a road trip, playing in the Eastern Conference, taking on the top teams in the Eastern Conference, and they came out of that winning 2 out of 3 games. Now, granted, Philadelphia was without Tobias Harris and Joel Embiid. Milwaukee was without Damian Lillard. But the Milwaukee win is much more impressive to me than the Philadelphia win. That Philly team just looked like a very different team, not having some of their star guys in there. But Milwaukee had most of their people there, and Utah got this big lead early, and then they were able to hold on to it and weather the storm. Milwaukee made a real run at it, made it kind of tough on the Jazz, but this was something that Will Hardy kind of preached to his team on this East Coast road trip, is how mentally tough can we be on this stretch. And they answered that call very well last night against Milwaukee.
Yeah, and they've been tough this entire road trip, and I got to give them props, for a team that wasn't doing particularly well. They've played most of their last, how many games on the road? They've played 4 road games in their last something like 14, 15 games, something to that effect. And that's the stretch where they've won 8 out of 10. It's pretty remarkable. And they're going to kind of get rewarded for that with a nice 6-game homestand. And it's kind of interesting because the question is, do the Jazz manage to maintain this? Because that's the question. Do they maintain some of their winning? And the answer is, look at this stretch of games. And, there's some tough ones. You got Denver and Oklahoma. They're going to bookend this 6-game homestand. And that's your number 2 and your number 3 team in the Western Conference right now. But you got Toronto, who's, they traded away one of their key players, and they're 11th in the East.
15-21.
Yeah, and you've got Indiana, who I think they're doing pretty good right now.
They're doing very solid though. One of their players just Halliburton. Did he get hurt?
I think he's hurt.
I don't think it's serious, but he did get hurt.
Yeah, the news I'd seen is that he had avoided serious injury, but he may be banged up. Of course, that game's going to be on the 15th, so he's going to have about a week to see if he'll be able to play. But if he doesn't play, then that's another great team that maybe great player that the Jazz can maybe avoid. The Lakers, they're not doing too great. They're sitting, I believe, at 10th in the West at 18 and 19.
A half a game ahead of the Jazz.
Yes, they're basically in the same spot. You got the Warriors, who aren't doing.
They've slipped below the Jazz.
Yeah, they're not having the greatest time right now.
Draymond Green is coming back.
That's true. He thought about retiring because he can't punch players anymore.
Yeah.
He finally gets punished.
I can't abuse players on the court. Maybe I should just give up on this game.
But then, so there's a lot of teams. They're about where the Jazz are at. They're not the Spurs and the Pistons of the world, but they're teams that are beatable. If the Jazz are really turning a corner, they will have success in this run. They'll probably take their lumps against the Nuggets and Thunder, maybe be competitive in one of those two games, but they can very much pull off wins, and they play better at home when they take on the Raptors and Lakers and Pacers, Warriors, whatnot. So I think there's 4 very winnable games in this stretch, and 2 that if you play to your potential, maybe you can steal one against Thunder, the Nuggets. So you go 4-2 in this next stretch of 6 games, then I'll say, okay, maybe they're a borderline play-in team. Maybe they can finally start really turning a corner. And if they do go 4-2, that'd put them over 500 for the year.
And even after this home stretch, when they go on the road, there's a lot of winnable games in that. At Houston, which is an improving team, but that's a winnable game now for the Jazz. New Orleans has proven tricky for the Jazz.
Yeah, they've been up. The Pelicans have been up and down. At times they've been the best. Times they've been like the worst.
Washington, not a good team. Charlotte, not a good team. Brooklyn, not a particularly good team. New York,
They're trying to figure out whether or not they're a good team. They're sitting there at 8th in the East.
Yeah. So I mean that's your road trip after a long homestand. So this is a very favorable January schedule for the Jazz, especially the way that they're playing right now. So this is a team with growing confidence. Role players are playing within their designated roles better. And it'll be interesting if this team continues to roll like this as we approach the trade deadline. Will the Jazz be buyers or will they be sellers?
It depends if they're because there's a lot of talk about how they want to actually convey their pick to the Oklahoma City Thunder this year. There's a whole thing, and you have to be good enough, because this draft isn't considered very good, and so they want their pick next year so they can tank next year. But they may end up deciding to sell. They may end up saying, hey, look, we've worked up the value of some of these guys, like a Colin Sexton, we want to trade him. Or Jordan Clarkson. You're probably not getting any value out of THT, but maybe he's thrown in if you decide to trade a Colin Sexton or whatnot. We'll see. Jordan Clarkson is actually he was not allowed to be traded until a couple of days ago. It is now legally possible by the rules of the NBA to trade him.
Yeah.
Maybe they decide to pull that trigger. Well, we'll see. I've said before, I don't anticipate the Jazz making any notable deals, but I've been wrong before.
All right, we got to take another time out here in the Full Court Press. We've got to let Jason go. He's got to get up to the Spectrum to prepare for Utah State and Wyoming. More of your texts coming through. We'll get to those, and we'll also recap and put a bow on the college football season. The college football championship was last night. We'll recap all that coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Hello, I'm Brent Wallace, President and Commercial Loan Officer at Cache Valley Bank. I've spent 18 years in banking, and I'm ready to share that expertise to help you meet your financial goals. I have a great team of bankers who are dedicated to providing you with the personalized attention you deserve. Come visit me at our main branch, or give me a call and let me show you what opening an account with us can do for you. We look forward to meeting you. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
No matter how cold it is outside, you can count on a quality-built, super-efficient York furnace to keep you warm inside. York furnaces provide consistent comfort throughout your home. York furnaces are protected by the strongest warranties available. Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning, your local York dealer, at 752-7272 to schedule a free evaluation of your system. Advanced Heating will help you save up to 50% in energy costs this season. Online at advancedheating-ac.com.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. I'd like to invite you to learn more about us. Since 1997, we've been Utah's premier one-stop shop for home medical equipment. What sets us apart at Alpine Home Medical is the superior level of customer service. We provide home oxygen, CPAPs, wheelchairs, scooters, breast pumps, and so much more. Come on down and get to know us.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Visit alpinehomemedical.com.
Locker 42 is a store for Utah State fans. Many of the items you'll find there are custom, one-of-a-kind, produced by Locker 42. Such production allows for the best possible prices and custom orders that are unheard of at this level, and is one of the highest contributing licensees for royalty sales. Your purchase at Locker 42 is supporting scholarships and student athletes. Hoodies, t-shirts, hats, jackets, everything Aggie is at Locker 42. Locker 42, a store for Aggie fans by Aggie fans.
Hello, Cache Valley. This is Tom Hale at Blue Sky Restoration, formerly ARS. Remember, got a mess? Call ARS. We want to let you know that here at Blue Sky, we still have the same great staff, we provide the same excellent service, and are ready to help you in your time of need with water mitigation, mold remediation, or a fire. From Blue Sky Restoration, thank you for trusting our staff and myself for over 35 years with your disaster needs, and we will continue to be here for you.
Westwood One is the only place for exclusive audio coverage of every NFL postseason game. Hi, this is Scott Graham. Join us throughout the month of January and into February as we bring you Super Wildcard Weekend, the Divisional Round, Championship Sunday, and of course Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas. All 13 NFL playoff games are on Westwood One. If it's the NFL playoffs, it's right here.
On Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan. It doesn't matter who you root for. The Full Court Press has all the high school sports covered. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen with you, Jason Walker making his way to the Spectrum. And if you are too, travel safe. Give yourself a little extra time and make sure your radio's turned on to our sister station starting at 6 o'clock on KVNU, 102.1 FM, 610 AM. As Al Lewis gets you ready for Utah State and Wyoming. A couple texts coming through on the Full Court Press text line, 9315. Jason has VIP status, so they will make sure he ends up in the Spectrum. Yes, that's right. Also, even if the great deflator has to come save and escort him with s'mores from Eric. Yes, we will make sure Jason Walker gets to the Spectrum safe and sound so we can get the great coverage that he provides on Cache Valley Daily. 4781 texting in, LOL, Draymond is softer than Charmin. Yes, he is a joke in my mind as well. But, who knows? How his return will affect Golden State. Currently, they've lost 5 of their last 10. They have slipped below the Utah Jazz. I guess technically they're tied, both of them 8.5 games behind the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are the top team in the Western Conference. But Jazz are a game and a half outside of the number 8 position and having home court in the play-in tournament. So. They're definitely playing very well right now. One of the hottest teams in the NBA, tying the Denver Nuggets and the Boston Celtics with the best record over the last 10 games. So that's pretty good company for the Jazz. But they are going to be tested soon with Denver coming into town tomorrow. 8 o'clock game on ESPN. So national broadcast could be really interesting considering how the Jazz are playing right now. But last night, going to put a bow on the college football season. It is now concluded. Michigan defeating Washington. Pretty close contest through 3 quarters and even a little bit into the fourth. But then Michigan really pulling away, driving the field, scoring a touchdown, and then getting that interception, big interception. Got them close to the goal line for another score. They were able to rattle Penix unlike anybody else. Washington was a great team all year, able to compete and be competitive in close games, week in and week out. So many contests decided by 7 points or less. But in those games, they always found ways to win. But last night, Michigan just had him confused, always bringing pressure from different places. And top to bottom, Michigan just was the better team overall. So now the season is done for college football, and it's now rearranged. It's going to be a completely new era starting now, with teams making the move to different conferences. A vastly different landscape in college football, with one Power 5 conference all but entirely eliminated. The other thing that came out last week, really didn't discuss this, is that there's a proposal for the college football playoff moving forward that you have to be in a conference of at least 8 teams in order to qualify. So really that signals to Oregon State and Washington State that even though they have the Pac-12 name behind them, they don't have 8 schools in their conference, so they do not qualify. Now, this is a proposal, hasn't been voted on by everybody, but it looks like the writing's on the wall. That's where they're going to go. So it effectively becomes a 5+7 to get to the 12 instead of 6 automatic qualifiers and 6 at large. It's going to go to 5 automatic qualifiers and 7 at large to get to that number. So that's going to be a very, very different college football landscape starting today, really, now that college football has officially ended and we start a new era with all this realignment. And it's going to do it for us tonight here on the Full Court Press. Hope you have a great night, and we'll see what happens with the Spectrum. More on KVNU.